Brilliant. So it's great to have you both here today with us to talk about local skills. Two of our fabulous members of the local delivery team, Skills Hub managers. Megan is Skills Hub manager for Scotland.
Big up the north.
Robyn is Skills Hub manager in Wales. So
Yes.
Borada. That's the extent.
Shemai! Diane!
That's the extent of my Welsh. So yeah, absolutely fabulous to have you with us, and we're going to talk about what's going on in your areas in terms of skills when you work with employers. We've got some treats. We've got a Scottish recipe shortbread petticoats and some Welsh cakes. So yeah,
so much better than any attempt I've ever made.
Yeah, I am completely and utterly drawn to this plate.
I mean, there's similarities in the biscuit products, and I guess similarities in your areas in terms of skills and the work that you're doing and the challenges that employers are facing. But I guess there's some kind of significant differences as well. So, Megan, do you want to start just by talking to us, giving a bit of the shape of Scotland in terms of skills challenges, the work you've been doing with employers, and what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really fortunate to say that, like, since I came into this post, I was mindful that Susie had put in 4 years of groundwork in Scotland when it came to working with SimSpa, and I was in a really exciting position with people knowing that I was coming in and focusing solely on local skills. So there was a real buzz around, okay, so what's next for SimSpa in Scotland? So my main area of work was piloted in Glasgow and the surrounding areas, which is quite a loose term when you're looking at that surrounding areas. So how far does that reach? And also, because of that enthusiasm and excitement, it meant that border started to grow a little bit further. But I kind of used that to my advantage to think, right, how do we bring in people from in and around those surrounding areas and bring them on board and on the journey of what we're doing? So 2 local skills accountability board meetings down now, which is great, and we've got a really good engagement from employers, education specifically as well. We've got 4 colleges and 3 universities engaged. We've got Sports Scotland as the national agency who are around the table. We have the likes of Public Health Scotland and the NHS who are engaged. So I feel in a really comfortable and exciting position that we've got so many people engaged in the work that we're doing. So yeah, there's want from other areas of the country, but having started it in Glasgow, and Robyn, bless her, has probably constantly got me on the phone saying, I don't know how to keep a lid on this, it's just growing arms and legs, but in a positive way. So I guess my clumsy point to start off with is it's been a real hive and hub of activity within Glasgow and the surrounding areas, and I think that's only teeing me up nicely to then roll that out further afield. But yeah, sole focus is in Glasgow at the moment, and I can't ask for much more from the employers and stakeholders and education to start rolling.
Yeah, it's great, and it's a big area. And as you say, you kind of building out for yourself in Wales, Robyn. Similar story, it's kind of pockets of work.
Yeah, very similar in terms of people being excited. Obviously, SimSpa's mainly worked in England. So the fact that we've come into home nations, been in Scotland for a few years now, we were probably starting from scratch in Wales in terms of, we've heard of SimSpa, but what does it look like in relation to what it means to Wales? So I used to often joke, and I guess the way in that we say, we're not trying to do round peg, square hole, Wales will fit what SimSpa has and what SimSpa does. It's actually, how do you make sure that SimSpa serves the Welsh sector? So the conversations I had with that initially, I used to say we're going to turn SimSpa to Wimspa, which was, I got loads of laughs from that, which is great. But it really was that recognition to say, yes, we've got investment from Sport Wales, we've got a partnership there. The partnership in itself is going from strength to strength, but really it's about making sure that people understood what SimSpa could do for Wales, where were the gaps. But then also what's been really refreshing is when we've spoken to employers, education partners, stakeholders around skills, a lot of them are saying things that we go, great. And we've already done a lot of work in Wales, in England and in Scotland, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel, which means actually I think the work we've done in the last 2 years since coming into partnership with Sport Wales and kind of being an invested partner, means that we've operated quite quickly. So, I mean, initially we had to set up good governance within Wales. So we had the Welsh Professional Development Board that was set up. They are well and truly underway. Like, right, what do we do in terms of leading the sector and really saying what is it that Wales needs from CIMSPA around skills? But now we've also set up our North Wales Local Skills Accountability Board, and the vision is that we will set up more of those across Wales as and when the time is ready. But I mean, yeah, we're just met with huge positivity from stakeholders, employers, colleges, universities, and I think that's a testament to the robustness that CIMSPA offers the sector in terms of quality assurance, that great governance that sits behind CIMSPA itself. It is super robust, so people can trust it, and it is exciting.
Yeah, and I think bringing the conversations that you have, talking to kind of guys that work with you in other areas of England, in terms of kind of the data that you can kind of bring to those conversations, and the evidence base and the analysis of work with employers and on curriculum provision with colleges, is that really, really strong offer. You've kind of both touched on the partnership. What innovative work are you seeing in terms of in Wales and Scotland with employers and kind of what they're doing around skills development?
I think particularly in Wales, it's getting people to really look at what does workforce planning, workforce development and workforce management look like. We've got great pockets of best practice where an employer will kind of really focus on it and make it a priority. We've got other examples where because of funding cuts, because of like pressures in terms of COVID and kind of getting back from COVID and not necessarily having the investment that was seen in England with the Train to Retrain funded programme in terms of that skills development, Wales is very much kind of, I think we've been putting out fires. And what's great now is that I guess we've been able to speak to employers to help them, pause, stop, let's talk about workforce development. You're not on your own. There is a whole system behind you that wants to support you to keep the best, develop the best, and then we see the best stay in the sector. And I think as well, when we look at Sport Wales, they're really keen on that coach developer professional standard that we've just created. And what does that mean in terms of the future leaders? So that work on the kind of next generation and that future leadership skills is something that's really exciting as well.
Yeah, and in Scotland we've seen kind of leading the way really with the engagement with public health and the connection between work in the sector. What kind of other areas do you feel in Scotland that there's kind of leading? I know we're doing a lot of work with colleges there as well.
There's actually a nice crossover between the two, because within the college education, a lot of the students' learning is being focused towards that wider piece around health and well-being. So it's not just around people coming out with the qualifications of being a coach or a personal trainer. There's so much more interest of actually what routes can we go down within our sector. It's so much broader now, which is exciting, and it allows people who are at the start of their learner's journey to realise that our sector is just so much more than a lot of what we say, just a coach or just a personal trainer, that you could go down that route of allied health professions. So we're starting to bring together people around the table to link up colleges going into university to follow the pathway into, say, the likes of allied health professions. But yeah, that placement piece has been a real talking point around the table at the LSABs, especially around the CIMSPA workplace, guidance work, or that piece of work that we offer. So that is being spoken about a lot around the guidance that we offer from CIMSPA and how employers have found that so useful to be able to make their placements more beneficial, more robust, more focused for students, and not just that cleaning a treadmill or filling a vending machine whilst they're on placement. So yeah, it's in my last LSAB I had us sit down and start to bring in the 4 pillars of work, which all the LSABs are focusing on around recruitment, retention, support and training and development. And the 2 hours that we had in the room could have been spent literally just talking about that.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you bring people into a room who are like-minded, who, yes, are all coming with different experiences, different offerings, different backgrounds, but when you actually start to focus the conversation around those different areas of work, people just have so much passion and want to do their bit. But yeah, the college work has been really exciting. And the next gen qualification, like I was saying, that's focused more on health and well-being, is now being rolled out into a 3rd college. So that'll be more students coming out. And it's really exciting that the colleges that it has been piloted in, every student who has gone through that course is coming out with successful employment at the end of it. And that is a huge win for the workforce in Scotland, in my opinion.
Nice.
I think in everyone else's opinion, it's a bright future.
Yeah. And so, you're doing a lot of work with employers, with community groups, with a whole range of stakeholders through the LSAS, but also through your other work. How can people get involved in terms of being part of, the skills evolution, supporting curriculum development, engaging in workforce planning, as you said, Robyn?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I love hearing from people. I love hearing their point of view and perspective. I think, who was it? I think it might have been Susie who said Sims was like the mouthpiece. We will collect lots of information, data, insight, conversations, anecdotal stuff, and we'll feed that back into the networks that we need to. So I think if anybody kind of goes, oh, this strikes my interest, the biggest thing we currently have in Wales at the moment is that workforce data.
Yeah.
We need that. We need skills. We need the skills gap analysis in order to generate a skills plan for Wales. And then how do we turn that into local skills plans? Yeah. But one of our Welsh PDB members, Steve Osborne, who's involved with the Research Observatory as well, made a really good point. If we look at one local area and we look to then build a national skills plan off of that, we're missing out 75% of the nation. So really it's a call to action for any employer that's working in the sport and physical activity sector who wants to then conduct the skills diagnostics tool. Short 45-minute survey with me, super smiley on the phone, like that. Hello, let's chat about skills gap analysis. Super exciting. But it's invaluable data that feeds into the bigger picture. So that's kind of our focus for the next year, is to just make sure we've got a good set of data in order to make decisions.
Yeah. And for you, Megan?
Much the same. That's an area of work that I would like to really focus on going into the second half of 2024 and then obviously further into 2025. I'm very fortunate that there will be 2 of us on the ground in Scotland, which will allow me more time to be able to really focus on that data collection. The new skills diagnostic that has been put together by the team in SIMSPA is far robust to what it was before, and it's going to allow me and yourself to really collect valuable data that we can then feed back into not only our LSABs but our PDBs as well.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate that one of our insights team came into the LSAB to present the Glasgow data pack as well, which is again more data that we can just draw from, and also employers can take back to their organisations to say, look at this data that we've got. There's updated live data all the time that people can have access to. So the combination of the skills diagnostics alongside the data packs that we have access to, it really is just a big win that's going to help us continue to develop the work that we're doing.
I do think we are the sector in its, the type of people that work in the sector, a group of doers. You see a problem, you fix a problem, it's done, you move on, next job. And I think what we often maybe lack in the sports sector is that real collaborative data where you go, look, actually here is, somebody might go, I really want to understand this to a finite, to a detail. I'll collect it with a sample of X amount because that's what I need to get robust data. What's good about, and I think as particularly for home nations with the Research Observatory, where we don't necessarily have loads of foot soldiers going out and collecting data. What you have got is industry experts who are like, they are gurus when it comes to insight, and data is definitely their bag. Ain't my bag. I love listening to people talk about data, and I then regurgitate that information. It makes me sound well smart. But I think when you've got people that collectively come together to go, what information do we have? What different data sets do we have? And skills diagnostics feeds into that. It's invaluable, because people then go, right, I've actually got evidence to now make a decision, or I understand, you know, where funding is invested in the sector, or who else is investing in the sector. All these things that people have got unanswered questions. You know, I think that's something that's quite unique about Simsbury, is that we've got a workforce, a group that sit together and go, let's answer questions. Which I personally, for me, is so helpful, because how great is it that then Simsbury can work in Wales or Scotland or England, and, you know, with our connections, we're able to answer people's questions. I think that's really important.
And it's that, you know, informed decision making. We've got such a rich data set now, which extends far beyond, I think, anything the sector, and in fairness, a lot of other sectors have got access to, in terms of the people working in the sector, the makeup of organisations. It means that when you are kind of working with employers and education providers, you've got a reliable source of information to kind of base decisions on, which is fantastic. We touched a little bit earlier on careers, and the fact there is this breadth of careers available in the sector that not everybody knows about. You two have had interesting careers to date in the sector. What if I could say to you, give one piece of advice to somebody looking to start a career in our sector, either a young person or a career changer, what would it be?
So randomly, I studied marine biology. I didn't even study sport, so I'm one of those that like snuck into the sector. But I did a degree that I really enjoyed and I was interested in, and therefore, you know, wanted to, you know, do a research project on barnacles. It was really fascinating. But everything else was sport. So I started off as a coach, I volunteered, I gave up my time, I built skills. I got used to conversing with people, whether they were young children, adults, parents, you know, elite athletes. You know, I got used to, and I loved playing a sport myself. So then, you know, because it was part of my world, a lot on my CV, like all of my experience was like sport. Yeah. You've done this, you've done a project on sport, you've gone and volunteered in sport. But you did marine biology. Like, what have you done anything when it comes to marine biology? No, I didn't, because I spent all my time just worrying about sport. But I think that in itself was far more robust, because when it came to an interview, I was able to rely on, you know, experience and tangible experiences of, you know, where I've problem solved, where I've spoken with people, but relating it back to being able to work in the sector and understand the sector. So yeah, my advice is, like, you've got to put yourself out there. You can't just say, because I'm studying in sport, it makes me good enough to work in sport, because we're a people sector. And if you are not confident or used to speaking to people, you need to get yourself out there, and never underestimate the power of, like, a good mentor. So if there's somebody you look up to, follow them around.
We're not advocating stalking here.
Be weird, get weird, follow them.
I'm going to use a bit of a joining piece that Robyn and I have in common.
Yeah, we do.
Both of us were sabbatical officers at our university, so elected into sports. Well, I don't know if yours was a sports union, mine was a student union. I shared an office with the student president. I was vice president of sports and society. So we both were sabbatical officers who had put ourselves out there. Neither of us had studied sport. I studied podiatry. I studied feet for 4 years. Not your, I
didn't know that.
If you got any corns, I'm your gal. So
I bought my nail varnish.
So again, it's that allied health professions. I knew I wanted to work with people. I knew I wanted to help people, and I knew I liked the idea of doing something that was going to improve people's health. Yeah. Now, I didn't know what that was. And I think that would be my biggest piece of advice, is that you don't need to be going into a career or the start of your learning thinking this is going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And actually, this might be one of a couple of jobs that you do, which, again, both of us do. We both teach. I focus on working with people who are older adults, so into the later stages of their lives. But again, that's around improving people's quality of life. It's actually giving them a connection to having a chat whilst they're doing a bit of exercise. But then I also teach spin, which is super high intensity. So, and that's alongside my day job. And I never thought I would have done that if you spoke to 17-year-old Megan, who was coming out of playing badminton and didn't know what she was going to do. So you're always going to continue to learn. And if you get to a point where you think you've got nothing else to learn, maybe that's then your time to try something new, because you should always be curious and you should always be wanting to continue to learn. And there is always something else that you can learn. And I think you should want to do that. So that's a clumsy way of me saying that where I started to where I am now couldn't be further from what I thought it was going to be, but all the dominoes lined up nicely for me to now be in the point of my life where I know I'm exactly where I should be.
Yeah, there's no, you do this degree, you end up doing this, you specialise in this, that's your route, and then you go, I'm where I could be now. Like, you do this. And it's, I think that's what makes it quite unique. It is, you make it however you want to, what you want it to be. If you're somebody who wants to progress and climb the ladder and, get into that kind of strategic-y management, quite easily you can do that because there's so many opportunities, it's so vast. But equally, if you're somebody who goes, do you know what, this is where I want to go and I want to become a specialist expert in this area, working with older adults, being still a practitioner on the ground, but I want to hone my skill of working with a specific population type, you can. Which I think is great. You really, it's kind of open to what people want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the work that we touched on professional standards earlier, but those specialist professional standards, working with older people, working with women and girls, working with diverse communities, all so important for kind of, you say, people being able to take that choice of specialising, really honing and refining their skills and the way they engage with those audiences or people who are looking to progress into management. And I think that takes us nicely to kind of professional recognition, which is kind of really something that we really are starting to highlight now and see kind of how people can have different professional statuses in terms of the experience that they've got, the training and the qualifications, but really, as you say, around that experience, so important for the sector. Really working in it.
I'm starting to find now. Initially, when I first came into the role, people didn't really get professional recognition, and one of my when I get on my soapbox, it's I want to change the way the sector, particularly in Wales, talk about themselves. I'm just a coach. We said it earlier, you're not just a coach. I ran a business where I was teaching, you go, I'm just a sports coach and I just teach kids. Actually, I was a business owner running an organisation where we were teaching children the first set of skills and putting them on this kind of foundation, strong foundations to be, and I bumped into one of the parents here, but then they were like, oh, just let you know, Nathan's on the pathway for, I'm like, how old is he now? He's 11, but he's in some kind of academy for rugby, and they're like, and it started with you and rugby. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not just, although when you're in it and you're in the depths of it, you feel kit bag, balls, cones, that sort of thing, but what you do is so important. And I think what we're starting to find out is people are starting to recognise they're not just working in sport. They are sector changers. They are innovating a sector. They are really impacting the health of the nation. And I think once we can level up in sport and talk to health and education and say, actually, a big outcome for you would be to connect with sport and physical activity, because we'll tick a lot of your boxes in terms of, can we make the nation healthier and happier? Yes we can. Who do we need to do that? Our workforce, all those specialist practitioners that work on the ground just as a personal trainer, just as a fitness instructor. I've had people in my fitness classes who, I've got a woman who comes with Parkinson's and she's like, if I didn't come to this fitness class, who knows what state I'd be in? And I'm like, I would usually just go, I just teach aqua. But really what you're doing is, and that, the professional recognition piece I think is the biggest bit, having been postpartum and the world of Instagram and someone pushes out a baby and then they go, I'm a postpartum expert, and you go, oh, no you're not. Let's not poo-poo on the people that learn and really take their professional status seriously in terms of their own CPD and learning. They're the experts, not somebody who's got a lived experience of bouncing back from a baby and getting a six-pack after 6 months. Good, great for them, amazing, but it doesn't make you it doesn't make you the professional that you think you are within the sector. So for me, it's really important to also recognise the good. But
what I like the most about our sector is that there's no one size fits all for every job within health and fitness. And alongside that, with your instructors, with your coaches, whoever it might be, you're also going to have a range of people that come along to your classes. Like I said, although I work with older adults, I also teach at the University of Edinburgh, and I'm working with students every week teaching it and giving them a purpose whilst they're at university, and seeing the difference from the start of the academic year to the end of the academic year, just from one class a week, the impact that has on the start of their week, which then has an impact on their studies, which then has an impact on their confidence. Sport and physical activity it plays such a pivotal role that people don't realise is like this underlying, I guess, belonging. Something that I always speak about, especially when I go in to speak to college students or university students when I'm going in with SimSpa, is I used to get pulled up at school all the time because I spoke to everyone. I spoke to my peers, I spoke to teachers, and that communication piece I knew was always my strength, that I used to get told off for a lot. But actually, that's what's got me a job everywhere, was my people skills.
It's your super strength.
Yeah, and I will always stand by that. It's my core strength when it comes to working in this sector. And just be authentically yourself and back yourself that, do you know what, if you're good at speaking to people, pursue a career in it in some way, shape or form, because that's what's going to make you the best version of you.
So, we could talk all day in terms of careers and kind of skills development and the work that's happening, but there is so much going on in both Wales and Scotland, and the whole team seems to be really grateful for what you guys are doing on the ground there, flying the flag for what we're doing, and really very much kind of making it so it isn't that one size fits all, so that we are taking into account the data, with the work with on curriculum development and those employees on the ground, in terms of what people are experiencing and feeling, and the positivity in the sector as well. So it's fantastic what you're doing, and I think it might be biscuit time.
I think so too. That'd be lovely.
Favourite time of the day.
Thank you so much, Robyn. Thanks, Megan. It's been a fantastic conversation, and we hope to carry it on in the future.
Thanks for these.
Thank you.